Abusive relationships among youths are on the rise, with far-reaching consequences for their physical, emotional, and mental well-being. Youths are vulnerable to abuse due to their age, inexperience, and desire for love and acceptance. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining us on another interesting episode of Youth Connect on Trust TV. I'm Fatima Ahmed Musa. Well, let's go on a quick break, and when we return, I will get to introduce my guest to you, and then we'll go into the discussion proper. Welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us on Youth Connect again. Okay, before I get to introduce my guest, like I said, let's take a look at this report that we put together, particularly on this topic.
People who are in abusive relationship, it's like hell. Because to me, I feel a relationship between a male and a female ought to be something rosy, supposed to be something beneficial, mutual, and the rest. So what I think is that, to me, in a relationship, there's supposed to be that understanding. Because when there are two people together, once they understand each other, there's nothing they cannot say to each other. You understand? But in a situation whereby you use abusive words or you use violence to correct something, it means violence continues always and along the line.
Why would I be in the abusive relationship? It's not good for me as a man to be dating a girl who can't obey me, or I should be dating someone who I can't obey. In a relationship, we're supposed to be in a good system, like where we understand each other. We will know when to talk, when to address an issue, not to be aggressive or insulting each other or be bullying one another.
My own opinion, relationship is something to be loved. You loved me, I love you, and there must be understanding. But if there is violence in it, like abusive relationship, as you call it, it's better to walk away. Like me, somebody like me, I will just walk away, because it's not a do or die affair. So that is my own opinion on it.
Now, joining me in the studio to discuss on this topic is Yohanna. She's a journalist. Thank you so much, Diane, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And then we have Blessing Aboi. She's a teacher. Thank you so much, Blessing, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And then we have via Zoom joining us from Kaduna, Gidado Jauro. He is also a teacher. Thank you so much, Gidado, for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me.
All right, so you all have watched the video that just played, Let me ask you this, Blessing. What is the relationship to you?
Relationship, I believe it's two persons coming together to make something work. Despite their differences, their similarities, they come to complement each other and then make something beautiful out of nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay. So then, how about you? What does relationship mean to you?
For me, relationship is just like what she said, two people coming together to make something work. They say two can't work together unless they agree, so it has to be like a mutual understanding between both parties. So that's what relationship is for me.
Okay, Gidado, how about you? At what point is relationship supposed to be confirmed?
The point where it should be confirmed, where both parties have agreed to coexist, to share space, to share a level of emotions together. Because at that very point, relationship should be confirmed.
Okay, so based on what we all watched, you heard what some of the young people out there said about relationship. Do you agree with most of the things they said?
Absolutely. Because talking on abusive relationships, once relationship becomes abusive, that's a cue for you to back out. It's not wise to remain in a relationship that is abusive, whether physically, emotionally, or psychologically, irrespective of whichever form of abuse you're facing in a relationship. It is advised to back out and not remain in it. So,
Diane, have you ever experienced or seen anyone who has experienced abusive relationship, and what has that been, or how did you feel about it?
Well, yeah, especially nowadays in our society, abusive relationships is something that happens like all the time. I have friends who have been through abusive relationships and manipulative situations like that. Abuse means like a harmful or manipulative behavior towards somebody, and of course it's not healthy at all. It's not healthy. There are different types of abuse. We have the emotional abuse, physical abuse, financial abuse, and a lots of them. So when you find yourself in this kind of situation, it's not advisable for the person to stay. There's no point, because from the definition, harmful and manipulative, there's no point being there for me.
Okay, Gidado, you heard what the ladies are saying. Do you think people should stay in an abusive relationships, and at what point should they back out, if at all they notice any red flags?
Well, I don't think it's advisable to actually remain in a relationship. Why? Because abusive relationships can have severe and long-lasting consequences. And then at the very moment where you feel, or I feel you should back out, when your very security, your very mental state, your mental and emotional state is being threatened, in as much as your physical state as well is being threatened. I guess at that very moment, that is the clear sign to back out.
Okay, Blessing, you are a teacher, even though I don't know what category of classes you teach, but how common is abuse, especially amongst youths?
Okay, I'm a secondary school teacher, and abuse amongst youth, I'll say it's something that is very, very common, even though we tend to not recognize it most times, but it's something that is very, very common. I would say over 50% of relationships nowadays are abusive, and then the persons who are in such relationships don't want to speak out and do not want to go out of it, despite losing their self-esteem and what have you, but they remain in it because of the fear of the unknown. What if I leave this guy? What is going to happen? Maybe the guy in question is a benefactor, and maybe you've spent time, and then maybe you're aged, you're looking at your age, you're looking at how far you've come. The fear of the unknown basically make most persons to remain in abusive relationships. So I would say it's the order of the day, in as much as most persons are not talking about it as much as they should, but abusive relationships are everywhere.
Gidado, you are also a teacher. You teach, I think, both primary and secondary school as well. Have you had any case of, these pupils coming to complain to you about maybe some relationships that they're in and it's been abusive? What did you do, if at all, any situation like that?
No, not considering the level of children I actually teach. Really expect to have much. But then I guess one of the things to do in such a situation is to advise the person to literally find a way to stay away from that relationship or seek help if.
Okay, so well, Gidado seems to not have cases that maybe he has faced. How about you as a teacher? Before I go to Dan, have you had your pupils coming to complain, or your student coming to complain to you about situations like that?
Yeah, sure. Being that they are mostly teenagers, I teach in the upper secondary session, so I have had cases like that where students come and meet me directly, of maybe their classmates abusing
there are different
them,
types of abuses,
different forms, and then it being in the north, I teach in the north. I don't want to be specific, but I teach in the north, and then you find children who are already in relationships, irrespective of their ages. Yes, at a very early age, and then some of them are even talking about marriage, irrespective of how the guy.
Did they tell you them? Maybe this particular consideration is coming from the family side? Because
yes, like there are cases where I had a scenario where I had a student talking about her boyfriend, and I personally felt you're too
At this
young
young
to be in
age,
a
yeah.
relationship. And then I called her and was talking to her, and she confirmed that her parents are aware of the relationship, and then she's even planning to get married in no time. But then the case there was the guy did not have any form of respect, quote and unquote, for her. He was abusing her emotionally this time around, not physically, but she didn't seem to have a problem with it. It was like a norm. So the best thing I could do, because it wasn't in my place, I feel, to advise her, because we have counselors,
guidance counselors in school.
Yes, so I referred her to the guidance and counseling teacher, and then
did you
took it
follow
up from there?
With the guardian counselor, maybe if she opened up about that.
Opened up, yeah, she did. But the thing is, there wasn't really, should I say, a solution, because this is something that the parent had already confirmed. And then, you know, you cannot be helped if you don't see a problem with you. So they didn't see any problem with the whole situation. So,
okay, Diane, why do you think youths, you know, especially it depends on what age, are actually vulnerable when it comes to abusive relationships? You heard what Blessing just said.
Yeah, about that, I think part of the reasons why people stay in abusive relationships is sometimes fear. That fear of starting all over again. You feel like you've built something, so going back at the scratch again, you know. And then secondly, part of the reasons is financial, what do I call it? Finances, though. Yeah, like probably you're getting there's something you're benefiting money from there, and you feel like it's the whole thing will be cut short.
So,
you know,
so for that reason, they don't want to leave.
Yeah,
have you
they
ever
don't want to
experienced that before, though?
Which of it? The you mean?
Are you saying this? Are you saying this out of experience, or is just maybe conversation with you and your friends that they have been in this kind of situation?
Yes, I've had conversations with my friends. Yeah, where they've experienced. I would say they've experienced narcissism. Yes,
narcissistic behavior.
Yes, narcissistic behavior. It's part of, you know, the whole emotional abuse stuff, where they gaslight you, they manipulate you, and it's emotionally draining. Sometimes, you know, you're not settled, you don't have peace of mind, so you lose weight and stuff. Honestly, I would say a lot of things are happening when it comes to toxic relationships, abusive relationships, and narcissism. Narcissism is something, in fact, but
do you think women are also narcissistic in behaviors, and they could also add to some of these abuses that is happening to
Yes, definitely. It's not a gender thing, it's both parties. It's just that it mostly happens with the men. Mostly we find narcissism in men most of the time, but it's both gender.
Okay, now at this point I'm going to throw this question to Gidado, being a man in this conversation. Gidado, is it true men are more narcissistic in behaviors than women, and why is it so?
I won't categorically say that only the men are narcissistic, but then I guess it goes both ways. The thing is, yes, some men can be like that, but that doesn't actually necessarily mean that, okay, yes, the ladies are not actually exempted in that as well.
Blessing, why do you think men are narcissistic in behavior, in nature, and why is it so rampant amongst men? We know that women can be narcissistic also, but then why is it mostly the men? Do you think it's due to maybe the way they are brought up, or it's just, you know, their own adaptation somewhere along the line?
I personally feel it should be because of the, let's say, that natural form of ego that a man has. A man is naturally built to feel like, okay, to have that ego, to have that sense of a worth, like I'm a man, authority. So most men now tend to, I personally feel, confuse it or abuse it and then become narcissistic along the line. But of course, there are scenarios, there are statistics that show more of narcissistic behavior in men more, than women.
Yeah, because mostly women are always gaslight. They always get to be gaslighted by men. They body shaming, and then that makes them maybe lose self-esteem and all that. But how can we make youth understand what it means to have a healthier relationship? Diane, what do you think?
Most of the time, why these things happen is because of childhood trauma, childhood traumatic experience. They might have experienced something during their childhood, that affects their personality while they grow up. Yes, I always say this: the role of a father in the life of a girl child cannot be overemphasized, because that's the first love you get to experience. And then when you grow up, that's how you know when you're being treated right. There's a way you're loved at home, that when you get a particular treatment, yes, from somebody, now I can't deal with this, I can't be here, I need to walk away, because you love yourself enough to be able to walk away, to save yourself from that
scenario or situation.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go on a quick break, and when we return, this discussion will continue. Stay with us. Welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us on Youth Connect, coming to you from Trust TV. So before we went on the break, Diane was talking about how important the role of a father is in the lives of children, I'll say generally, not just specifically women. But like I asked her, at what point should young people know that, okay, I have reached my limit, this relationship is not working for me, I need to back out? At what point do you think that should be?
I feel when it gets to a point where you begin to lose your self-esteem, like you attach your self-worth to your partner rather than just own it, that I am important, I am loved, I am beautiful. Most persons who are abused tend to want to rely on validations from their spouses, their partners. And then when it gets to that point, it means you're completely dependent on that person, and then it becomes very, very, very toxic. At that point where you're beginning to lose yourself, your self-worth, that is the height of it. That's a clear sign that you should leave, irrespective of how difficult it is going to be. If you feel you can't do it personally on your own, you could reach out to someone you feel you trust, and then maybe for fear of what your partner would do, you're scared, then seek for help, maybe therapy, talk to your friends, and then they would help you on the step to take.
Okay, so then what role do you think, social media has played in terms of, maybe making people feel, oh, I can stay in this abusive relationship, I can make it work, or he's going to change? What do you think social media has done to some of the young people, especially in their relationships?
Well, not really. I don't really think so. I think the only time I've seen that kind of situation is in marriage, where they have to tell you have to endure because of your kids, because of this, that. But for relationship, no, I haven't really seen where they encourage youth to stay. In fact, most of the time they tell you don't stay when you get that kind. In fact, the moment you get the red flags, you leave immediately, so you save yourself for future trauma and all of that. So I haven't really seen a situation where
Okay, Gidado, how can we encourage youth to speak up when they are being abused? Like Dan said, maybe, or should I say even Blessing also said that they don't tend to speak up. So at what point should they speak up when they are being abused by their partners or their spouses?
Let's say with more sensitization, getting people to know the effects and dangers of actually categorically staying in abusive relationships, and then having centers or source persons or go-to persons that people can actually reach out to, know that you can actually discuss it. It's not something you can actually suffer alone. So a problem shared, problem solved. So share and then
we have seen celebrities that this nowadays coming out to speak about being abused in marriages or even relationships, even though Diane says she hasn't. Maybe it depends on what she might be seeing, but then we have seen a lot of people coming out to say they are being abused in relationships that is not marriage, right? So what would you say they need to do And who should they even speak to? Because, like you said, some may be scared to say something. Should they speak to their their family? Should they speak to their friends? Who should they rely on at this point?
I think before they even get to speak to someone, there need to be a self-resolve. You need to resolve within yourself that, okay, I'm done with this. Else, no matter the help you get externally, you will still fall back to that abusive relationships. So you need to tell yourself, okay, I am done with this. I deserve better. I can do better than this. And then for the celebrities and then people coming out, it's actually a very, very bold step, because very hardly you meet people who talk about abusive relationships for fear of discrimination from the public. And for you to really come out and then talk about being abused, it takes a whole lot of strength and resolve to do that. So I think it's a good step, the step they are taking. And then I would advise that people who are in abusive relationships to toe the same line and then make more efforts. Forget about the fear of discrimination, maybe shame that comes with professing abuse, and then just make that effort. Talk to somebody, and first of all, tell yourself, I am worth a whole lot better. And then I think that's the first step. Like I said, tell yourself, I am better than this. I can get better. I deserve better.
Okay, so Diane, what role can educators, parents, and community leaders will play, in supporting youths that are abused? Because some abuses actually comes in the public. So what role do you think parents or leaders and community leaders and educators like schools should play in this situation?
Since they have the forum to, schools and all of those, they have the forum to educate people. So that should be more of what they should be doing, educating people about, the dangers of it, the disadvantages, what it does, how it affects the mental health and a lot of that. And also, parents should, sometimes we learn from our parents. What we see is what we, so parents should show more love to themselves so their kids can be able to see and learn from it. When your parents have a beautiful relationship, you see people admiring their parents' relationship. Oh, I like my parents' relationship because it's beautiful. You know what you'll be getting out there. You know that if you're not getting this type of healthy, relationship, then I don't. So parents should be an example to children, while in schools and all of that, they should educate the students.
Sensitize, like Gidado just
yes.
said.
And sometimes there's what we call trauma bonding. Sometimes chipping in from what she said, yes. Sometimes you want to leave, but you can't. Okay, I will leave. Next week I will leave. Next month I will leave. You want to leave, but you can't.
And then you keep staying until you lose yourself.
Until you lose yourself, yeah.
We have seen people that have gotten killed, in abusive relationships. But Gidado, being someone that has studied psychology, how can we support youths who have faced abusive relationships?
Some ways we can actually help youth people that have suffered abusive relationships. Now, some basic steps will be creating a safety plan with a trusted friend, family, or professional. That is encouraging the people to reach out to either friends, people they trust, family, and professionals who are good that can actually give you advice in regards to that. Secondly, you can document abusive incidents and gather evidences. And then seek support groups, counseling, or even religious communities that can actually help. Set boundaries or distance yourself from the environment or person that is exerting the abuse. And then prioritize care and self-compassion.
All right. Thank you so much, Gidado, for joining us and contributing to this discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
For being here with me, and then Blessing, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, this is where we come to the end of this discussion. Don't stay in an abusive relationship simply because you feel you cannot leave. You can actually leave and be safe. I remain Fatima Ahmed Musa. Bye for now.